inequality review. Write an inequality to represent each graph. So when you have a graph, you're going to use a variable. It doesn't matter what variable you use. You're going to use less than, greater than, less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to. And then you're going to write the number that the graph starts with. So for number 1, I have an open circle on 10. An open circle means you're either going to use less than or you're going to use greater than. I'm shading everything to the left of 10, so that means that x is less than 10. All right, for number 2, again, you use your variable. Look at which direction is being shaded. We're shading everything to the left, which means it's going to be less than. The circle is filled in, so that means it's going to be or equal to, less than, or equal to. And now I'll look at the number that the graph starts with. This point is plotted halfway between 0 and negative 1. So x is less than or equal to negative 1/2. You could also write that as x is less than or equal to negative 5/10. It's the same thing. Doesn't matter which way you write it. Solve each inequality. Show your work. For number 3, I have negative 5q is less than or equal to negative 20. That means negative 5 times q. I have to do the inverse of multiplication, which is division. So I'm going to divide by negative 5. Anytime you multiply or divide an inequality by a negative number on both sides of the inequality, you have to flip your inequality sign. So this becomes q is greater than or equal to negative 20 divided by negative 5 is 4. The reason you flip your inequality sign, this says negative 5q is less than or equal to negative 20. When you divide by a negative on this side, you're changing the sign. This now becomes a positive number. So since you're changing the sign on this side, you're going to have to flip the inequality sign so that it is still a true statement. Number 4, 4r plus 6 is greater than or equal to negative 4. When you're solving these, you do the opposite of the order of operations. So we're going to add and subtract first. I have plus 6, so to get rid of that, I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. That leaves me with 4r is greater than or equal to negative 4 minus 6. There's a negative sign in front of both of these numbers, so that gives me negative 10. I'm multiplying 4 times r, so I'm going to divide by 4. The bottom number goes outside the house. 4 will go into 10 2 times, with 2 left over. Put a decimal, add a 0. 4 will go to 25 times. So r is greater than or equal to negative 2 5/10. Number 5, negative y plus 1/2 is less than negative 3 1/2. Subtract 1/2 from both sides. Negative 3 1/2 minus 1/2 is negative 4. But I'm not finished because I have a negative variable. You cannot have a negative variable. So to get rid of that negative sign in front of the variable, a variable that does not have a coefficient has a coefficient of 1. So this is like saying negative 1y. So I'm going to divide by negative 1 on both sides in order to make this y positive. If I divide by a negative number on both sides, I have to flip my inequality sign. And negative 4 divided by negative 1 is positive 4. So y is greater than positive 4. For number 6, 1 2/10 x plus negative 7/10 is greater than or equal to 7 1/10. I have to get rid of this negative 7/10. The opposite of negative 7/10 is positive 7/10. What I do on this side, I have to do on this side. That leaves me with 1 2/10 x is greater than or equal to 7 1/10 plus 7/10 is 7 8/10. Now I have to divide by my coefficient. 7 8/10 divided by 1 2/10. That leaves me with x is greater than or equal to, the bottom number goes outside the house. We have to move our decimal. 12 will go into 78 6 times with 3 left over. Nope, with 6 left over. 12 will go into 60 5 times. So x is greater than or equal to 6 1/2. 6 5/10. Solve each inequality, label each number line, and graph your solution. Then check your solution using points from the graph. 7x plus 1 is greater than 15. First thing we're going to do is subtract 1 from both sides. 7x is greater than 14. The inverse of multiplying is dividing. 14 divided by 7 is 2. So x is greater than 2. I'm going to have an open circle on 2 because that is greater than, not greater than or equal to. So 2 cannot be a solution, but everything bigger than 2 is a solution. So I'm going to circle 2 and shade everything that's bigger than 2. Negative 2x plus 3 is greater than or equal to negative 11. I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides. Negative 2x is greater than or equal to negative 11 minus 3 is negative 14. Divide by negative 2 on both sides. When you divide or multiply both sides of an inequality by a negative number, you have to flip your inequality sign. X is less than or equal to positive 7. So I graph this with a closed circle on 7 because 7 is a possible solution. And I shade everything that's less than 7. Number 9 says negative 1/10 x plus negative 1 is greater than negative 4/10. So I'm going to add 1 to both sides. Negative 4/10 plus 1. I have different signs, so I subtract. I have to borrow or regroup. 10 minus 4 is 6. The bigger number is positive, so 6/10 is positive. I have negative 1/10 x. I'm going to move my decimal. 1 will go into 6 times. So x is less than 6. So when I graph this, I'm going to have an open circle on 6, and I'm going to shade everything that's less than 6. Number 10, 2/3 x plus 3 is greater than or equal to 3. First thing I'm going to do is distribute. 2/3 times x is 2/3 x. 2/3 times 3. 2 times 3 is 6. 3 times 1 is 3. 6 over 3 simplifies to 2. 2/3 x plus 2 is greater than or equal to 3. Now I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. 2/3 x is greater than or equal to 3 minus 2 is 1. Anytime your variable has a coefficient, that means multiplication. The inverse of multiplication is division. However, when your coefficient is a fraction, to divide by fractions, you multiply by the reciprocal. So I'm going to multiply by 3 over 2 on both sides. Multiply by 3 halves. 1 times 3 halves is 3 halves. 2 will go into 3 one time with 1 left over. So x is greater than or equal to 1 1/2. So I'm going to go halfway between 1 and 2, and I'm going to put a closed circle because it's greater than or equal to, and I'm going to shade everything that's bigger than 1 and 1/2. Choose the best answer. Consider the inequality below. Negative 5 5/10 x plus 3/10 is less than 2 5/10. What is its solution set? So I'm just going to solve. Negative 5 5/10 x plus 3/10 is less than 2 5/10. First thing I'm going to do is subtract 3/10 from both sides. That cancels out, leaves me with 5 5/10 x is less than. 5 minus 3 is 2. 2 minus 0 is 2. Negative 5 5/10 x is less than 2 2/10. I'm going to divide by negative 5 5/10 on both sides. When you divide by a negative number on both sides of the inequality, you have to change your inequality sign. You flip it around. So x is greater than, the bottom number goes outside the house. Move your decimal. So I have 2 2/10 divided by 5 5/10. 55 will not go into 22. 55 will go into 220. Let's try 4 times. 4 times 5 is 20. 20 plus 2 is 22. So x is greater than 4/10. And a positive divided by a negative is a negative. So x is greater than negative 4/10. It is A. A cell phone plan charges $39.90 a month plus 5 cents per text message. Which expression can be solved to find how many text messages x can be sent while keeping the bill under $50? So you don't want to pay $50. You don't want to pay anything more than $50. So the very most you want to pay is less than $50. So we know it can't be A because A has it set up as a greater than. So we're only looking at B, C, and D. You pay $39.90 a month regardless of how many text messages you send. So that is your constant. Then you pay 5 cents per text message. So $39.90 a month plus 5 cents per text message is less than $50. That is going to be D. 39.9 plus 500x is less than 50.